Last season, the North Central women's soccer team came agonizingly close to their first ever NCAA tournament appearance, falling 2-0 to Wheaton in the CCIW tournament championship game. This year, the goal was to learn from that experience so they could hopefully take that next step.
I think that we talked about last year, we weren't ready for it last year. And we came back this year, we were ready for it. We knew what we had to do to get back there, and we weren't gonna let what happened last year kind of dictate what happened this year.
While most of the roster returned, the Cardinals and head coach Andrew Gamarra did change up their tactics a bit, including switching from a 4-player defensive line to a 3-player defense. This put a lot of responsibility on the players at the back, particularly junior Ellie Lochbaum, who played in the center of the defense. But she and her teammates more than handled the pressure, and Lochbaum was named not only CCIW Defensive Player of the Year, but North Central Women's Soccer's first ever All-American.
I think we knew we could go back to a 3-line with Ellie, kind of anchoring. We knew she had that capability, but I thought, having Lauren back as a 5th year, Maddie with a year of experience after redshirting and watching, and just Jordan being steady.
It was a lot of ground to cover throughout the season, but I feel like we made it work, and I was able to step into that role as an upperclassman now. I mean, I'm usually a pretty quiet player, but I try to communicate as best as I can in the middle, and having Jordan behind me is also awesome. We played club together since 7th grade, so we work really well together, and I'm glad that everyone had trust in me to lead.
It's a little chaotic just because being the person that can see the entire field, you have to be able to use your voice and tell people where they need to go. And sometimes it can get a little dysfunctional, but I think that made us work more together, and it wasn't so solo anymore. So if someone slid over, the other had to go with them. It was a lot more collaborative and a lot more trusting in each other that if something happens, someone else will be there to clean it up.
With a strong season of her own, in addition to the performance of the defense, Boyd set a new program record for shutouts in a season with 7.
I don't look at it as that was all me. I look at that as, we had the least amount of shots on us this season. So having the people that I have in front of me is what kind of led us to that situation, and having those people helping me in the back is what gave us that outcome at the end of the year.
The Cardinals lost just once all regular season, going unbeaten both in CCIW play and at home. For their efforts, a record 4 players were named to the all-conference teams. Lochbaum, Elle Sutter, and Sarah Andre to the first team, and Morgan Verbaten to the second team.
I put myself in the spot where my teammates are setting me up to be there, but there is kind of a lot of pressure because when I'm not scoring, it's my job to score. So everyone's gonna look at me and think I'm not doing my job. But a part of it, it's also just kind of making sure my teammates are also able to score, not just focusing on myself. Because if we're all scoring, the team is doing well.
I think it speaks volumes of the type of kids we're getting now, that they are, first team all conference. I think that's the first time we've had 3 players on first team. So I think that speaks volumes in terms of the type of kids we have and their competitiveness and drive. But I think, we're hopeful to even have all region players and potential All-American players down the road.
Despite managing to keep opponents at bay, the Cardinals hit a bit of a rut mid-season that led to a string of draws, including in 3 straight conference home games. As the postseason approached, they knew that not losing wasn't going to be enough.
We just had a lot of talks, and we just were kind of we have to figure it out. We're the only ones who can fix this. The coaches can coach us all they want, but we're the only ones who are on the field and are able to put goals in the back of the net. And so I think when it came to Wesleyan, it's a game that we all just wanted so bad, because it's always them and Wheaton are always that game where it's just we don't want to lose. So I think when it got to that, we just were doing everything possible to get balls in the net.
The response from the team was emphatic. They came from behind not once but twice to defeat Illinois Wesleyan 3-2 in their home finale, which earned them a bye in the CCIW tournament, where they would once again face Wheaton. The game was cagey and chances were few and far between until the 76th minute, when Sarah Andre was fouled in the box and Lochbaum stepped up to take the ensuing penalty kick.
I think as soon as Sarah drew that penalty kick, Sarah actually drew all 4 of my penalty kicks this year. I knew that I was going to take it, and obviously I was a little bit nervous, but I knew I was the one that was going to have to do it, and we had no choice but to score. The past 3 penalty kicks, I had gone right, and all the Wheaton girls were saying, she's going right, she's going right. So I went left on that one and it worked out for us. So I'm glad that we were able to win that.
It was extremely, extremely intense. Even though not much was going on in either side, I would say, it was still so intense in those moments where you see the ball coming down the line and you just know that this cannot go in the back of the net. So I think that us wanting to walk away with that win, but also walk away with a shutout, is what made us want to win that game even more.
Unfortunately, the Cardinals once again fell at the hurdle of the CCIW championship game as Illinois Wesleyan claimed the title. However, they thought their resume was strong enough to warrant an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. But when all 32 team names were read out on the selection show, theirs wasn't one of them.
I think it's been really hard because we've made it to the conference championship 2 years in a row, and being on the field for 90 minutes for both of those games and losing, it doesn't feel good.
I think it was difficult not to hear our name called, but I think that fuels fire. I think sitting in the room, watching that live as a group for the first time, and then trying to get in is a huge statement. So I think it wasn't so much as what we're saying as a coaching staff. I think that message was sent pretty clear when our name wasn't called. I think they all want that feeling heading into next year, that they want to be called heading into the second week of November and continue to play, and know that they deserved it.
That was the first time we had ever had the opportunity to watch the NCAA selection show. I don't think any of us were really sure how it was going to go, and then when they kept calling names, we all were like just waiting for our name, and then when it wasn't called, it was kind of just silence. It was kind of just a reflection on, we didn't get there, so what are we going to do next year? And I think that next year it will again fuel the fire for what we need to do. I think we'll be 100% more prepared for next year.
I didn't really know what to expect, so I was just kind of sitting there, and obviously it was disappointing when our name wasn't called. And I thought it should have been called, but we still lost the conference championship, and so from there it's just there's more work to be done.
This Cardinals team now has no shortage of experience. The core of the team next year will mostly be seniors, and they've now also twice gone through the heartbreak of coming up a game short. They know what they're capable of, and hope that belief combined with hard work will lead to a breakthrough in 2023.
I think next year it will be a lot different. We want to get back in the national rankings, but I don't think next year we'll let that get to our head as much. Because this year I think it got to our head and we had that pressure, and all the other teams in conference were pinning it on us when we got to games against them because they knew that we were the team to beat and we were ranked. So I think next year, having that experience, we'll be able to be more composed in games and just know what to expect from teams instead of ending up with a bunch of the ties that we did this year.
I think we really competed with some of the highest teams this year. We beat a ranked team, which we'd never done before, and we never knew that we could do that, and that kind of gave us the idea we can compete with some of the best teams around the country. So, and we also were unbeaten at home, which was awesome this year.
I think the kids, see that they are a top 25 program, that they can compete with the best, and I think they're going to get after it. Now, heading into next year, we know that we can't leave it into anybody's hands except our own. And when we get to those moments, that we have to do our best in terms of finishing the game or controlling the wins and losses. So, but I thought this season was a successful year in so many different aspects. And just because we fell short at the last game of the year doesn't reflect in terms of the progress that the program's made.